Malik raised his hands slow, trembling, but certain. The entire room stilled as the 13-year-old boy with cerebral palsy stepped forward and began tapping a rhythm only he could hear. And in that moment, as 20 kids followed his lead and the music bent around his beat, his father realized he wasn't there to teach his son anything. He was there to finally listen. Hi, everyone. Today we're diving into a story that proves not every kind of power comes from money, titles, or influence. Sometimes the greatest power is simply the ability to see someone, really see them. And sometimes the people who change everything don't arrive with a briefcase or a spotlight, but with a pitcher of sweet tea and a tired smile. This could happen to anyone, even you. So before we dive into the story, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy what I do here. And drop a comment to let me know where you're watching from and what time it is right now. It was a warm April evening in Montgomery, Alabama. The kind that makes you roll your windows down just to catch the fading gold light as it dances through Spanish moss. Russell Jameson adjusted the collar of his black polo shirt as he pulled into the gravel lot of Mabel's Table, an old soul food restaurant tucked just off Route 231. The place didn't look like much paint chipping, a crooked wooden sign, and a row of mismatched rocking chairs out front. But he'd read on a parenting blog that it was quiet, family-run, no cameras, no pretension. Just food, music, and space to breathe. That's all he needed tonight. In the passenger seat sat his 12-year-old son, Malik, small framed shoulders drawn and head down. He hadn't spoken since they left the house. Not that Russell expected much. Malik hadn't said more than 5 words in a row in over a year. Spastic cerebral palsy had made movement a negotiation and social situations a minefield. But Russell had promised his late wife he'd try harder. Be more present. Tonight was Malik's birthday. Russell had cleared his schedule, turned off his phone. He was determined to show up, even if he didn't know what that really meant anymore. He got out first, walking around to gently open Malik's door. The boy slowly unbuckled one hand, fumbling with his backpack strap. Russell reached to help, then stopped. Malik didn't like help unless he asked. That was one of the few things he'd ever said clearly. Let me try first. So Russell waited. They walked toward the entrance together. Russell in pressed jeans and clean sneakers, Malik in his favorite hoodie and worn orthopedic shoes. The air smelled like fried catfish and something sweet, maybe peach cobbler. Inside, the dining room glowed with dim yellow light. Jazz music hummed from a 3-man combo in the back, soft saxophone, upright bass, and electric piano. The tables were covered in checkered cloths, the chairs didn't match, and the servers moved like they'd been there forever. Russell scanned the room quickly. No flash bulbs, no familiar faces. Just families, couples, a man reading alone in the corner. Perfect. Table for 2, he said to the hostess. Right this way, she smiled, grabbing 2 menus. They were seated near the window, close enough to the music to feel it, but far enough to talk. Or at least try. Malik slid into his chair slowly, his eyes locked on the corner of the table like it was safer than looking up. Russell sat across from him and opened his menu. The words swam a little. He wasn't hungry. You want to try the mac and cheese? Russell asked gently. Says it's award-winning. No answer. Or maybe the fried chicken. They say it's better than Popeyes. And I know you like Popeyes. Still nothing. Just a faint rhythmic tap of Malik's finger on the side of his glass. Russell exhaled and looked around. No one was watching them. No whispers, no pity, just normal people in a normal place. Maybe this wasn't a terrible idea. That's when she appeared without fanfare, without urgency. Just a tired waitress with her hair pulled into a puff and a notepad tucked into her apron. She looked about 28. Skin the color of warm coffee, a small scar near her left eyebrow, and a kindness in her posture that couldn't be faked. Hey, y'all, she said, voice light but steady. Welcome to Mabel's. My name's Nia. I'll be taking care of you tonight. Russell nodded. Thanks, we're still looking. Her gaze moved to Malik, then softened in a way Russell hadn't seen from a stranger in a long time. She didn't look past him. She looked at him. And what about you, birthday boy, she asked. Malik blinked. His hand froze mid-tap. He looked up for just a second, startled. He hadn't said a word since they entered. Russell furrowed his brow. I didn't tell you it was his birthday. You didn't have to, Nia replied gently. He's got that look like he's trying to disappear, but today's too important for that. Russell opened his mouth to respond, but nothing came. Nia didn't need anything from him. She didn't need permission to see his son. She didn't take their order right away. Instead, she tucked the pen behind her ear and said, "Take your time. No rush tonight." Then she moved off toward another table. Russell watched her for a moment. The way she bent down to speak to a child. The way she refilled a glass before anyone noticed it was empty. The way the room seemed to open up around her. She moved like someone who knew how to carry more than plates. He looked back at Malik. The boy was still staring at the spot where she'd stood. His fingers had resumed tapping, but slower now. Measured. "You okay, Russell?" asked, this time quieter. Malik didn't speak, but his eyes weren't so far away anymore. Russell leaned back, unsure what just happened. He reached for his phone, then stopped himself. No distractions. Not tonight. And yet, even without a screen, he couldn't help but feel like a bystander at his own table. Nia returned a few minutes later with 2 glasses of sweet tea, one with lemon and ice, one without either. She placed the plain glass gently in front of Malik, not asking, not announcing, just offering like she already knew what he preferred. Russell blinked. "How'd you know he wouldn't want lemon or ice?" he asked. Nia smiled without looking away from Malik. "I didn't. Just figured I'd go with soft and simple first. Cold's not always the kindest." Malik's hand slowly reached for the glass. He took a careful sip. No reaction, but he didn't push it away either. "You like music?" Nia asked, crouching a bit to be level with Malik's eyeline. Her voice had no force in it, just curiosity, like she was inviting him into a quiet corner of the world instead of dragging him into the middle of it. Malik shrugged barely. "That sax player in the corner," she continued, nodding toward the trio, "used to tour with B.B. King. Real smooth hands. You can hear it when he stretches the notes, like he's telling secrets." Russell watched. Not Malik, not Nia, the space between them. Nia kept going. "You know what I like? I like when a note sneaks up on you, doesn't ask to be heard, just sort of settles in your chest like it's always been there waiting." Malik blinked and tilted his head slightly toward the sound. "You hear that bass," she whispered. "That deep thump, thump, thump. That's a heartbeat you can borrow when yours is tired." Russell leaned forward, his voice lower now. He used to like music. When he was little. Before, he didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Nia gently tapped her fingers on the wooden edge of the table. 3 soft beats. No rhythm, just presence. Malik looked down. After a moment, he lifted his fingers and mimicked the pattern. Slower, off-tempo, but deliberate. Nia grinned. "Look at that," she said softly. "You already got rhythm in those fingers." Russell's mouth opened slightly. It wasn't much, but it was something. Something real. Malik didn't look up, but his fingers didn't stop. They tapped again. Different this time. 4 beats. Pause, 2 more. Nia tapped it back, then added 1 more. Then waited. Russell felt something tightening in his chest. Not panic, not pride. Something in between. Something like awe. Nia didn't rush. She wasn't teaching. She was listening, following. "See," she said, keeping her eyes on Malik. "That's what music really is. Not rules, not notes. Just a way of saying something when words get tired." The saxophone slid into a slow phrase, soft blue wandering, like it had been listening too. Russell cleared his throat. "I've spent thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands, on therapists, devices, consultants. None of them got him to do that." Nia stood up gently. "That's because they tried to fix him. I just wanted to meet him." Malik's fingers paused. He glanced up at her for a blink. Just one. But Russell saw it. Nia looked back at him and said, "You mind if I show you something, birthday boy?" Malik gave a tiny nod. Barely there, but unmistakable. She stepped back just a little between the tables, just far enough to give space. Then she began to move. Not dancing exactly. Just her arms, her shoulders. A slow sway like a tall blade of grass in the wind. Her hands rose gently, then dropped. Her feet slid 1 step forward, 1 back. Every motion soft, unhurried. She wasn't putting on a show. She was offering a language. Malik watched her carefully, his hand lifted, twitching once. Then again, it hovered above the table, his fingers trembling. "You okay?" Russell asked quietly. Malik nodded. Then, he raised his hand, just a few inches. His fingers curled, then extended. It was awkward, uncertain, but entirely his. Nia saw it and raised her own hand in response, matching him, not correcting, mirroring. Then Malik tapped the table. Twice. She answered with the same. Then once more. The jazz trio noticed. The saxophone eased into a new phrase, wrapping itself around the tempo of the table. The bassist shifted. The piano followed. They weren't leading anymore. They were responding. Russell didn't move. Couldn't. His son, who barely spoke, who avoided touch, who'd flinched at applause at school assemblies, was now holding the attention of an entire room without trying, without asking, just being. People started noticing. No one interrupted. No one pulled out a phone. They just watched, quietly, respectfully. The hum of conversation softened. Nia knelt beside Malik again, her hand still lifted. "You did that," she whispered. "I just followed." Malik's lip twitched. Not quite a smile, but something close, something alive. Then came a crash from the kitchen. A tray dropped. Plates shattered. Voices snapped in panic. The spell broke in an instant. Malik flinched hard, pulling his hand to his chest. His shoulders tensed. His jaw tightened. Russell jumped up slightly. Hey, it's okay. It's just noise." "You're okay." Nia leaned in again, calm, grounded. "Sweetheart," she said, "nothing to worry about. Just a clumsy cook. Happens all the time. You did perfect, okay?" Malik didn't answer. His eyes darted. His rhythm was gone. "I'm sorry," Russell said, defeated. He's not used to. Nia held up her hand gently. "Neither am I." She looked at Russell then. Not as a waitress, as someone who understood what it meant to be carrying something heavy, invisible, and constant. She glanced back at Malik, her voice steady. "I saw him looking at the music, and I remembered what that felt like, what Russell asked, what felt like wanting to move, but not knowing if you're allowed." That sentence hit him like nothing else had. He sat back slowly, breath caught halfway between realization and regret. Nia stood again, wiped her hands on her apron, and gave the tiniest nod toward the trio. The saxophonist returned it like a secret handshake. "You used to dance," Russell said. "Still do," she replied. "Not like I used to, but yeah. Studied modern in Birmingham, taught jazz for a while, till life got expensive. My mom got sick. My boy started growing out of shoes too fast. Now you're waiting tables." She smiled a little sad. "Doesn't mean I stopped dancing. Just means I learned how to do it while carrying plates." She looked back at Malik. "And sometimes, if I'm lucky, I get to teach someone new, even if it's just for 2 minutes between orders." This time Malik smiled. Soft, small, real. Russell stared at her like he was seeing her for the first time, not as the waitress, not as the woman who made his son smile, but as someone carrying something he didn't know how to name. For the last 6 years, he'd been throwing money at specialists, reading blogs, flying in consultants from across the country, but none of them ever said what she just did. Wanting to move, but not knowing if you're allowed. He cleared his throat and reached for his sweet tea, suddenly aware of the silence settling between them. Nia glanced toward the kitchen, where her co-workers were picking up broken plates. She didn't look worried, just tired. The kind of tired that comes from giving too much in places that don't always give back. "You ever think about teaching again?" Russell asked quietly. Nia tilted her head. "Think about it all the time. Doesn't pay the bills. But you're good at it. What you did just now, that was more than teaching." "I'm a waitress with a dance degree and a kid in 3rd grade," she said. "Not exactly a hot commodity in the movement world." Russell reached into his pocket and pulled out a silver business card. Simple matte finish, just his name number and the words Jameson Cyber Defense. He slid it across the table toward her. She stared at it, confused. "You hiring dancers at your security firm now?" He chuckled. "No, I'm saying I could fund something. Something real. A studio. A program. A place where you could teach not just Malik, but kids like him. Adults even. People who've been told movement isn't for them." Her arms folded, defensive now. You trying to turn this into a charity project? No, Russell said. I'm trying to build something meaningful. With you? I don't need saving, she said, her voice low but not angry. I know. That's why I'm asking you to lead. She didn't answer. Her eyes flicked to Malik, who was still watching the trio, his fingers quietly resting on the edge of the table, like they were listening for another cue. You don't even know me, she finally said. But I know him, Russell replied. And tonight was the first time in years I saw him feel seen. Not managed, not assessed, seen. And it happened because of you. Nia's jaw tightened. She didn't want to believe it, but it was true. I spend hundreds of thousands on therapies, Russell continued, and none of them gave him what you gave him tonight? She shook her head slowly. Even if I said yes, where would it be? Who would come? We find a space. Build it from the ground up. You decide how it runs. I handle the cost. She gave a soft, humorless laugh. You're serious. I've never been more serious. She looked at him for a long time, trying to find the catch. There had to be one. Wealthy men didn't just hand over opportunities to tired waitresses, but his eyes didn't flinch. They didn't condescend. They held something else, regret and hope. I'm not a businesswoman, she said. I've got that part covered, he replied. I'm not a therapist. Even better. Her hand drifted toward the card but stopped short. I'm just a woman who used to dance, and he's just a boy who needed someone to see the beat hiding inside him. That's all we need. She didn't say yes, but she didn't say no. Malik suddenly tapped the table again. 4 times, then 2, the same rhythm as before. Nia smiled. Russell turned to his son. Hey, you okay if we come back next week? Malik gave a shy, sideways nod. Russell leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. Because maybe we could start something together. You, me, and Miss Nia. Malik didn't reply, but he didn't look away. That was enough. Nia stood her pad, buzzing with a new order. She pulled it from her apron and glanced down. I better go before someone thinks y'all kidnapped me. Russell chuckled. You sure you don't want to think about it? I already am, she said without turning back. That night after they finished dinner, fried catfish for Russell, fried okra and mac for Malik, Nia brought a surprise, a small scoop of vanilla ice cream with rainbow sprinkles and a crooked birthday candle. She placed it gently in front of Malik. No charge, she whispered. Just don't tell my manager. He thinks I'm soft. Malik stared at the candle. Russell leaned in. You can make a wish, buddy. I don't think mine come true, Malik said softly. It was the first full sentence he'd spoken in front of his father in over a year. Nia crouched beside him again. That's because you've been wishing quiet. Try saying it out loud next time. Make the world listen. Russell had to turn his head. The lump in his throat was too much. Malik closed his eyes and blew out the candle. They left quietly after that. Russell tried to hand Nia a folded bill, at least 100, but she gently pushed it back. I didn't do anything special, she said. You did more than special, Russell replied. You showed up. That's rare. He pressed the business card back into her palm. This time she took it. They stepped out into the night, the air thick with jasmine and spring heat. Russell opened the car door for Malik, who slid in more easily this time. From the window, Nia watched them go. She looked down at the card in her hand. On the back, written in thick block letters, You saw him, I saw you. She didn't know what would come next, but something in her heart whispered, maybe this was the beginning. 6 months later, the old warehouse outside Montgomery didn't look like much from the road. The exterior was still rough corrugated metal and faded brick with a fresh coat of paint, doing its best to fight back the years. No banner, no grand opening. Just a small wooden sign hung over the door in clean block letters, the movement room. Inside, it was a different story. The floors were polished but worn, scuffed from the delivery crew, smoothed down by bare feet and cautious steps. No mirrors yet, they were still back-ordered. No ballet bars either. But sunlight streamed through the tall windows, and jazz played from a speaker in the corner, not too loud, just enough to set a rhythm. In the center of the space, 20 kids stood in a wide circle. Some used canes, others wore braces or sat in wheelchairs. A few stood with perfect posture but avoided eye contact. And right near the middle was Malik Jameson, now 13, in soft black shoes and a loose gray shirt with big bold words, "Hear me through my hands." Nia stood barefoot in the center, her curls pinned high, her voice calm and certain. "Okay, y'all," she said, walking slowly around the circle. "Today we move however your body says move. No counts, no right way, just your way." A few of the kids giggled. Others rocked nervously on their feet. Nia stopped next to a boy twisting the hem of his shirt in both hands. "You ever made your own music before?" she asked him. He shook his head. "Today's your first time then," she said with a wink and kept walking. Malik stood still, breathing carefully. His left hand twitched once, then again. Nia turned back to the center and dropped into a crouch. "All right, who wants to start?" Silence. Then Malik raised his hand. The room stilled. Nia didn't gasp. She didn't praise. She just smiled. "You already did," she said softly. "Go ahead, Malik." He stepped forward, one foot shaky, then the other. Not graceful, not smooth, but full of intention. His fingers moved first, tapping a soft rhythm against his thigh. Then his shoulder rolled and his foot slid an inch. Another. Nia mirrored him, not copying, reflecting. The other kids watched. Then one of them, a girl with a neon green walker, clapped once, then again, matching Malik's beat. A boy in a wheelchair tapped the wheel rim with his palm. Within seconds, the circle came alive. Not with choreography, with participation. Malik took another step and raised his hand in the air. No one laughed. No one corrected. They followed. At the back of the room, Russell leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. He wore jeans, a simple t-shirt, no tie, no phone in hand, just eyes locked on his son. Nia glanced over once, just enough to see him, but kept her focus on the group. After about 20 minutes, they wound down. Nia clapped gently once, then twice. The group settled. Some sat on the floor. A few leaned against the walls. Malik stood breathing hard, his arms by his side. Sweat beaded near his brow. "You okay?" she asked him. He nodded, then said, "I like the sound of it." "What part?" she asked. "The part where nobody told me what to do." Russell closed his eyes for just a second. That sentence hit him somewhere deep. Nia motioned for everyone to gather near the front. "Good work, y'all. We'll stretch next time. For now, remember this: if your body moved even a little, you told the truth today. That's what matters." Parents started arriving. Some peeked through the windows, surprised by what they saw. Others stepped inside, slowly, uncertain of what kind of place this was. Russell stayed back as Malik collected his water bottle. He moved easier now, not because his muscles worked better, but because his fear worked less. When most of the kids had left, Russell walked into the room. Nia was wiping the floor near the back, a rag in one hand, a spray bottle in the other. "I got something for you," he said. She stood and wiped her hands on her pants. "Please tell me it's a box of funding with no paperwork." He smiled and handed her an envelope. Inside was a printed photo, Malik mid-motion, at a therapy session 2 weeks ago. One hand raised, face open, foot lifted off the ground. He wasn't mimicking a therapist. He was leading. "I want to hang this in the studio," Russell said. Nia stared at the photo. Her voice caught. "You should, but only if you let me take one of you next to him," he added. She raised an eyebrow. "I don't dance in front of cameras." "You said that 6 months ago. Things change. I've got a sweat rag and my left sock has a hole in it." "Perfect," Russell said. "That's exactly what this place is. Real." She looked at the photo again. "I don't even know how this all happened." "I do," Russell said quietly. "You showed up. You listened. You followed his rhythm. You funded it. I enabled it. But you made it real." She didn't respond, just looked back at the kids still waiting for their rides. "You know," she said, voice softer now, "when I was a student, I used to dream of opening a space like this. A place where nobody got told they were too slow, too different, too broken." Russell nodded. "Then let's keep building it. Whatever it becomes, you lead. I'll follow." Nia looked over at Malik, now tapping his fingers on the window ledge as he watched a bird fly past. She smiled. "I think we're going to need a bigger floor." That fall, the movement room settled into its rhythm like a heartbeat steadying after a sprint. No brochures, no flashy ads, just word-of-mouth, parents whispering to neighbors, therapists recommending it cautiously, teachers asking questions after school. The ones who came were the ones who needed it most. There were kids who flinched at applause, Kids who only moved when no one was looking. Teenagers who masked every emotion until they hit the floor. And adults to older women who used to dance before surgeries stole their balance. Veterans learning how to trust their legs again. Single moms who just needed 10 minutes to move without judgment. Each of them entered cautiously. Each of them stayed longer than they planned. Malik had his own rhythm now, not just in movement, but in confidence. He wore shirts with sayings like, "My pace, my power, and no wrong steps." His teachers noticed the difference. His therapists cut their weekly hours in half. He didn't just participate in Nia's sessions, he started creating them. One Tuesday afternoon, as sunlight streaked through the high warehouse windows, Nia arrived to find Malik already in the center of the room, with 4 younger kids circling him. They were following his taps, 2 on the left thigh, 1 on the table, a pause, then repeat. She didn't interrupt. She sat on the edge of the mat watching him lead something he didn't need permission for anymore. That night, after everyone had gone home, Nia locked the front door and stood under the warm light of the studio entrance. Russell waited in his usual spot outside, leaning on the hood of his SUV with 2 paper cups of coffee in hand. "I saw him teaching today," she said, taking one of the cups. "He had them following his rhythm like he'd been doing it forever." Russell smiled. "He told me he wants to be a choreographer." "Really?" she said, blinking. "Not a therapist, not a scientist, not even a video game designer like before. He said he wants to build feelings you can see." Nia stared at him, the words washing over her. "He's not afraid anymore," Russell added. "That's all you." She shook her head. "That's him." Russell reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. "I got something else. A proposal. One of our foundation partners is interested in replicating this model in Birmingham and Mobile. They want you to consult." Nia stared at the paper but didn't reach for it. "Why me?" she asked softly. "Because I can build buildings, but I can't teach what you teach. I can't see what you see." She exhaled slowly. "That night at the restaurant, she said I almost didn't come in. I was so tired. Tips had been down for weeks. My kid had outgrown his sneakers again. I told myself, just get through the shift." Then you two sat down. Russell looked down. "I didn't know what I was doing. I just wanted to feed him. It was his birthday, and I didn't know what else to do." Funny how the smallest choices crack open the biggest doors. They stood in silence for a moment, the studio lights glowing behind them, casting soft shadows on the gravel lot. Russell finally said, "You think this is working?" Nia turned to the windows. Malik's tap pattern still echoed in the room even though it was empty. "It's not about the moves," she said. "It's about the permission." He nodded. "You know what I realized? What all those years I kept trying to fix him, to make him fit, but he wasn't broken. He was waiting for someone to follow his beat." Nia looked over, tears clinging to the edges of her eyes. "You following now?" He chuckled, still learning. Just then Malik appeared at the door with his backpack. He waved, then turned toward the car. Russell stepped forward, pulling his keys from his pocket. "Come on, partner," he called. "We got music to make." As they walked to the car, Malik tapped a short pattern on the hood. 2-1, pause 1. Russell tapped it back. Nia watched from the doorway, arms folded, heart full. Inside the studio on the far wall hung a photo of Malik mid-dance, and right next to it, a newer one. Russell barefoot and awkward, laughing as Malik guided his hand through a slow arc in the air. 2 snapshots. One story. The story of a boy whose rhythm changed a room. The story of a man who finally learned how to listen. And the woman who heard them both before either one spoke a word. Sometimes we think power means being in control, making the decisions, holding the money, setting the pace. But the truth is, the greatest kind of power is presence. It's the power of a father sitting in silence long enough to finally hear his son. The power of a woman waiting tables with tired feet and an open heart. The power of a child tapping out a message with no words, just rhythm, and asking the world to listen. The movement room didn't become a national chain. It didn't need to. It became a sanctuary. 1 floor, 4 walls, and a door wide enough to let everyone in. What changed Russell wasn't a business deal. What changed Malik wasn't therapy. What changed everything was the moment Nia knelt beside a boy who'd been shrinking into himself for years and said, "There's no wrong way to move when you're honest about how it feels." We all carry music inside us, memories, pain, love, fear. Some of us were taught to silence it. Others were never given the chance to play it out loud. So here's your reminder. Show up, stay longer than you planned, ask questions instead of offering solutions. And when someone starts tapping, try following instead of leading. Because sometimes the richest moments come not from those with the most influence, but from those who dare to dance in a room where they were once told they didn't belong. Thanks for watching. If this story meant something to you, share it. Not because it's feel good, but because it's real. And someone out there needs to know they're still worth hearing.